Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Stop Playin podcast. It's your favorite homegirl, Koereyelle, here to encourage you to stop playing with your potential and start working for what you want in life and in love. You already know I'm bringing you the information and the conversations to help you make the money and get the honey. You can have it all as long as you are willing to work. And ladies, y'all are in for a treat because we about to talk about getting to the honey on today's episode. Before we get into it though, make sure y'all like this video. If you are listening on a podcast app, subscribe to the show and go ahead and get ready to share this episode with a friend because it's going to get a little spicy. We got the fellas of Hardly Initiated in the building. Welcome to the studio, guys.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Finally made it down to the studio, and I'm ready to get into this convo. Are y'all ready?
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're ready too.
Do y'all do very many interviews?
No, this is definitely an exclusive.
Facts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very selective.
Very selective. Okay. Oh, thank you. All right. Well, the ladies are definitely going to enjoy this conversation. Anytime I have fellas on the show, episodes always do numbers because I don't think we get enough honest conversation about the current state of relationships. Now, y'all are not like relationship experts or anything, right?
No, but we.
Now, this is the thing. We typically say no to that.
Okay,
But
okay.
over the past 2 years, I mean, we spoke to the top 1% of people in marriages, right? We spoke to countless relationship experts, and we studied the game. So it's actually very difficult for me to say I'm not a relationship expert. I'm going to say no.
Okay.
But we got the sauce, though.
You got the sauce,
Yeah.
though. And one thing y'all definitely have is your own personal experiences, things that y'all are seeing, dealing with, experiencing on a daily basis, as well as the women that you all serve through your own podcast. Y'all are like, y'all got y'all ears to the streets at all times. So I want to talk to y'all today about your personal experiences, but also some of the things that y'all are seeing, like your perspective of what you're seeing from women as well. So relationship statuses for both of y'all.
Single.
Single.
Single as hell, or like it's a lady watching this that y'all got to be mindful of what you're saying?
No, yeah, I'm seriously dating, but
Okay, okay.
I'm still single.
Okay.
I'm single as hell.
Single as hell.
That's a fact, yeah.
Nobody gonna be tuned in mad. Okay. So let's start with you, Ryan, because you went viral a couple months ago on my page, actually,
Okay.
with a clip that I shared, and you were talking about your preference in younger women,
Uh-huh.
and I believe the word you used was malleable. And the crowd went wild.
yeah.
So,
We're very viral for that.
The crowd went wild. So, do you stand 10 toes down by that statement? Do you want to
So
retract it? What's your current?
I do think that in the past I was prone to use some flagrant language.
Okay.
So malleable,
Intentionally or
I would say intentionally,
Okay, okay.
for sure. But now that I've matured over the past year or so, I do tend to change my language. So in this case, my preference is not necessarily younger women.
okay?
Well, now it's kind of in that mid-20s range.
Okay.
You know, and not malleable, more of coachable. Now, this is the thing. Coachable can probably still be seen as offensive. But in my opinion, if I'm running a team, right, I'm taking care of my ladies, I'm taking care of my kids. If
Did
I
you say ladies?
my lady and my kids.
Okay.
Yeah, I did say ladies though.
He did.
Yeah.
I want to be clear. Okay.
Right now it is ladies, but if I'm taking care of the fam, right, and I want to put them in the best position, then of course I'm gonna want somebody on my team who's gonna be able to facilitate and adhere to whatever instruction or guidance I might be providing at that time. And I don't think that's unreasonable. And in fact, I think that most men would like higher levels of cooperation from their women.
I agree with that. And I think a lot of times where the confusion comes in and the gender wars and all of the things, the people going crazy in the comments, it's not necessarily the intention of what we're saying, but it's simply how we're saying it.
Right.
So I don't think that it's unreasonable or unrealistic or outrageous for a man to want a younger woman for all of those reasons that you just said. But when it's presented in the sense of I want a woman who I can mold, which is basically what malleable means, like I can bend you and and bend you out of shape and you ain't gonna break. Basically, I think that terminology was just like, well, damn, you gon' like that is almost in the same vein as like grooming, I think is what people were taking it as.
I mean, the levels and the response that we got from it, the level of virality was really insane. But it's understandable, right? You think about, it's been years, hundreds of years, where men have led through domination, right? Rather than masculine leadership. So if you have these women who, don't have the best upbringing in terms of having a two-parent household where both a man and a woman is present and, giving them the instruction and level of tutelage that they need to be successful in relationships, when you hear somebody like me saying malleable online, it's going to drive you pretty nuts. So I do understand it, but I think as a whole, it's best that we do find ways that, or at least be open to listening to each other.
100%. And I think that's the beauty behind the way that podcasting is taking off. It's like you don't have to be this person to have a voice, to bring some value. And podcasting, I think, is allowing us to be able to do that.
Right.
For sure.
What's your preference, Tashawn? Malleable women or no?
That word malleable is so tricky because it can be taken so many different ways. And I just want to say, when we first started the show, it was like straight barbershop talk. If most women sit in a room with men talking, most women would be offended.
For sure.
That's a big fact.
In our just casual conversation. But because I know ladies are sitting here watching this conversation, I will not say malleable. But I think a woman that is willing to listen, right? That is willing to be open to guidance, to instruction, that's not so stuck in her way, has a wall up where she can't take instruction or leadership from someone who's qualified to lead.
Ooh, heavy on the qualified to lead. I think that is where a big disconnect comes from. And it's not, in my opinion, the man's fault. It's the woman has such a terrible history of bad choosing that they don't even allow what could be a good choice to, be that masculine leader or because they've made so many bad choices that now they're just expecting that this is going to be another bad choice.
Or they just have had bad masculine relationships even in family. Like they haven't had healthy masculine relationships, whether it was with their father, their brother, their uncles. Men have taken advantage of them in their own family that they should have entrusted. So it's a lot of reasons that young ladies are not able to be open to masculine leadership, whether qualified or not. But yes, and picking is definitely one of those.
So what does taking, I don't want to say being submissive, but what does, I guess, taking your leadership look like as a girlfriend versus a wife?
So, it's interesting because when I think about me dating now, and I think about what it looks like for me to lead on a day-to-day basis in my relationship, leadership it can go from small to big things. And I think women have to look, especially when dating, at the small things that he does, because that's really what you're going to be able to evaluate at that point. So how might he instruct you to stand on one side of the sidewalk? How might he instruct you and prepare you before the date? How does he instruct you to, or, watch over you as you walk back into the house after the date is over? Like, it's just really small qualities that you have to evaluate in him to see if that leadership is there, to see if he's like providing that realm of security and safety around you. So it's not always, what house you're gonna buy or the big decisions in which you evaluate leadership. It's the very small things. And that's what it looks like in dating for me on a day-to-day basis. I feel like you're always providing a level of leadership. Like right now, the young lady I'm dating was looking at purchasing a home. And I have a real estate background. So I could have been in a situation where I just go ahead, sit back, I let her do all the work. She come to me, she asks me questions here and now, I throw a couple tips at her, I sit back, and I let her just kind of go about that process. But like, ideally, what I'm gonna do for her in that situation is I'm gonna provide a little bit of structure for her. So I'm gonna say, hey, babe, look, when we look for the house, I recommend, all right, because first of all, what's your budget? What's this? Cool. All right, look, we need to look in these areas. You ain't gonna find no kind of house like this in this kind of area, so we're gonna look for townhomes, search here, we're gonna use here. Matter of fact, I got a mortgage lender. I'm gonna send you this person here, and we gonna kind of I give her this structure and process for her to be able to then go ahead because she's talented. So I ain't gotta do too much for her. I just give her this structure, and boom, she takes the game, and bam, and she appreciates that.
That is a great, realistic example.
Right.
Yeah, some of those smaller things, I think that it is a group of women that are open to that. Some of those things, I think the issue is understanding what a man wants from a woman. Right, a man wants first and foremost trust. Then he wants lust. And of course, devotion, right? You want a woman to really affirm and revere you as a man. Now, with that trust piece, it's a very difficult thing for women to give up. And where I find just through personal experience, and also through communicating through the many women that, tune into our show, is that when in times of conflict, that is when, in times where men are holding their women accountable, baby, I would prefer things work like this. Baby, let's try to do this instead of do that, right? Those is when the mouthiness, the attitudes present themselves. And men, especially men who stand on what they believe and have those boundaries set, are having some serious issues with establishing that level of trust. And a lot of it, I do sincerely think goes back to the negative experiences that many of our women face when they're dealing with, the guys out there.
Do you all feel personal pressure, like in your personal relationships, to be whoever the world expects you to be because of your show?
That's a really great question. I don't know if it's personal pressure, but I do feel like I have to move strategically. Like I do feel like I have to move strategically. Yeah. Like you won't catch me. First of all, I mean, I'm not gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. Like, if anybody who knows me knows that, like, typically the young ladies that I typically date women I'm not ashamed to be around. But like, with my positioning in life right now, best believe if I pop out with a young lady, I'm very strategic about how I present myself around around women, just in general. But I mean, no other real pressure, because one thing we've never done, we actually, what was unique about our show in particular was we didn't present ourselves as the perfect models of what you should be like in relationships. We actually was very vulnerable about a lot of the mistakes and the wounds we've had. And I think that's what made our conversation so authentic and raw on our show in general. So our audience don't expect perfection from us, but they know we know better.
That part. Once you know better, you are expected to do better.
Yes.
Yeah, my experience is pretty, pretty cool. I don't think I've had any, well, I may have had like maybe 1 or 2 negative experiences actually from going viral. So, but outside of that, in general, we do want to conduct ourselves in a certain way because, I mean, the thing is we can't go anywhere that has Black women without being recognized and people coming up to us. So we do have to be, I think, careful about who we present as somebody, or who we, how we represent ourselves, and kind of who we have on our arm when dating. So I do think that I consider that a bit. It's not much pressure, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, hey, I have to double confirm, is this young lady good for the brand? Whereas at first, I could probably try some things out.
See what fits. You could throw some things up and see what sticks. I got you.
Right.
Got you. So you said that women are not really considering what men want. And I've heard this so many times. So to clear the air and to make it so that, once you know better, you got to do better, what, in your opinion, do men want from these women that we just don't seem to understand?
Like I said, I really think it's just trust, love, and devotion. Those are things that are important. I mean, trust goes so deep. Like Tyshawn has said, from the very small things in terms of where we going, when we going, to very big things in terms of, hey, these are the changes that we need to make, whether it's in the household or how we interact with each other. And that devotion piece is huge too. And devotion, this is the thing, devotion goes beyond you being next to your partner. Devotion is how you present yourself online. If you go out and you with me, right, and you do the Kiki Palmer thing and you around, that's showing right there. You are not devoted to your man. Because the thing about devotion is, what women really have to understand is that Men judge men based off their woman. If a guy comes in and his woman is stunning and she looks beautiful and classy, all of a sudden I'm like, what does that guy do?
Facts.
Who is that guy? Now, on the opposite end, if a woman that I feel is showing or showcasing some level of disrespect to her man, I have less respect for that man. That man gets talked about behind his back. That man gets invited to less places. And in fact, depending on the type of men that man has surrounded himself with, including his friends, that woman may even get more advances from people that he called his friends. Now, women have to protect their men. So that level of devotion, so much of it comes down to how she is when he's not around. And I think that, a lot of times women think, hey, if I'm not right with my man, it's certain things that I can do because I want to do this with my girls or because this is how I feel. But women must consider at all times, is this the right thing to do if my man was around? And if it's not, then it's best not to do it.
So no to the Kiki for you too.
Oh no.
What was the major problem, in your opinion, with Kiki?
Oh, come on.
What was the issue?
Let me ask
was
you.
It
Would you have done that?
Absolutely not. But I can tell you why I can pinpoint exactly where I would not have. I would not have. Couldn't have been me.
Okay.
But what at the root of it, was it that it was filmed? Was it the dress? Was it the singing? Was it that she just had a baby? Like, what, in your opinion, what was your issue with it?
A woman who is sharp is always aware of what's going on, right? So being aware of it is really just understanding what the situation is. One, you're Kiki Palmer, right? Okay, that's the first thing. You have attention, you have an audience, you have eyes. You can easily end up all over the internet with just the slightest thing you do. So one, you positioning yourself outside, dressed the way you're dressed, and then, first of all, men, we instantly know. I instantly know if I'm with a woman, the way she interacts with another man, responds to his energy, I instantly know either is something going on, something has went on, or something could go on. Right? Just by the energy and how they're interacting with each other. And the interaction was just disrespectful to a woman who already has a relationship with another man. Oh no, she's just getting serenaded. First of all, no woman should be getting serenaded. I don't even like the sound of my woman getting serenaded, first of all. But again, understanding the situation at hand, when you put all of those variables together, it was just essentially an emasculating experience for her man, and that's one thing that's a position you never want to put your man in.
I agree. Do you think that he handled it appropriately?
Of course not. Of course not.
No.
That's something that you want to handle in private. Now, I don't know if it was a publicity stunt or if it was as part of the marketing campaign for her album that came out or something like that. But at the end of the day, when you have issues with your woman, you address it directly with your woman and not in public. And I think when a man does, look to address these things online, that's an emotionally unstable man.
Yeah, so he furthered the emasculation.
That part,
absolutely.
you did it. I felt like she was wrong, but you made it. You threw gasoline on it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't address me in public.
Oh yeah.
Not in public. But Chance the Rapper, was he wrong
I didn't
with his
see
twerking at the what was it?
Wait,
Oh, you know what? I did.
You
So he
saw,
was
for
getting
sure
danced
you saw,
on. He was
yes,
getting danced
yes.
on outside.
At the what's it called? What's the festival?
I know, like Carnival.
The carnival. Yes,
It was Carnival.
Mm-hmm.
So he was getting danced on, and it's kind of weird, and that's why it's just certain environments I don't know if you should be in when you're in a serious relationship, because that's the culture of Carnival. Like my people, that's our background. I'm deep in that culture, so I know it's a whining, twerking, grinding culture out there. So when you get in the mix of that, you're gonna end up in the mix of that. And just me personally, I just wouldn't want me or my lady in Carnival if we just at a certain point in our relationship. Like I just really think it's just certain things. It's just single activities.
Gotcha.
It's just certain things I just don't. At a certain level,
What am I doing here?
what am I doing here?
Agreed.
So was he wrong? Absolutely. I mean, it's just not a good look for the family. And that's really what it's about. It's like the brand of the family is what I really think it comes back to, especially when you at that level where the eye is on you, the eye of the people is always on you. You always want to protect the brand of your man as well as the man protecting the brand of his lady, which is why I love seeing couples like when I see like the James family.
Oh yeah,
Like LeBron and his wife and his kids.
the Messi's like that too.
Who that?
Lionel Messi.
Yes. It's certain families that when I look at them, I just think, wow, like they've really protected each other for decades of being in the limelight, where so many things could have went wrong. You had so many opportunities, I'm sure. Some people, oh, he did this, he did that, whatever.
You didn't bring the trouble to my doorstep.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, it is not in my home, right?
Yeah.
And so I think to your point, though, it's not just celebrity because social media has put the spotlight on all of us now.
Oh yeah.
And so a big thing that we didn't necessarily have to consider in the past is like who you present online. So how do you all feel that your social media presence affects your personal relationships, I guess? And I mean from the sense of a woman that you would potentially date.
It's an impact. I mean, some good, some not so good. My Instagram profile is not very active, but obviously we got the show. So I mean, the amount of DMs and solicitations that I get or women showing interest is a lot, right? And it's funny because once it started happening, I literally called Tyshawn and I'm like, yo, I have to get back into the word because I got to get my discipline right, right? Because it's crazy because, you know, it depending on why you want to influence people, right? So I really had to take a look at that, why I wanted to influence people. And I had some vanity underlying in there. So when I started getting those DMs, it's like, oh yeah, this is what I wanted. And I had to really look back at it. It's like, okay, look, if this is the goal, then we're not gonna make it very far. If income is the goal, then we're not gonna make it very far. So I really had to go back and look at, hey, why exactly I wanted to do this. So now the same DMs, I'm like, I don't respond. Right? I actually don't like it. You know, so some people would consider that good. You know, they got more people to pick from. But me personally, I don't think so. But I would say one of the negative things is just having an opinion. So because I have a publicized opinion, I am now coined as very opinionated. When I have just as much opinions as you don't like as your mom does, or your dad, or your brother, your sister. Trust me, you ask them opinions on some hot topics, they're gonna say a lot of stuff you don't like, right? But because I am publicized, then it does sometimes impact not a woman's level of attraction, but her willingness to actually go out and you know, go on a date with me. Sometimes I'm able to work through it, but other times, to be honest, there's just women that they like stay far away.
And you know, like ladies is, you know, y'all researchers.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
So y'all gonna research your man, y'all gonna look at his LinkedIn, his Instagram, if he had a MySpace back in the day, y'all pulling up everything. So it's interesting having a relationship podcast, because if you're dating and you got a relationship show, that's the only place they're gonna go. They're gonna go
Listen to every
and
episode.
binge
Yeah.
every single episode that you've had. And they're gonna pull up anything that did not make sense. You know, when you guys first started the podcast in
heard you
2021, when you had so and so on, you said,
Yeah.
you know, so like you gotta address all these things. But here's what's interesting though, because with the young lady that I'm dating now, so interesting. I found that this has been a way to have conversation that I probably would have never had without. So it's so interesting. We've achieved certain levels of depth in conversation that I don't think we would not have had if I was not entrenched in this space and she wasn't watching this show and asking these follow-up questions. So it's almost like, you know how people say, babe, let's read the 5 love languages together. We do that every episode.
Yep. You're taking, because, and I did this with my husband, not even realizing I was doing it, but just talking about all these random scenarios. What would you do if this? What would you do if that? You're taking the pressure off of it being you and her. It's like, this is just my opinion. It's not directly affecting us, but now it's a talking point. Now I understand your thoughts. Now we can have a conversation on this. Now I can get to know you better. Now I can understand you better. And it's not I'm judging you on your opinion, or I'm taking it personal because it's an attack. It's just creating a conversation. So I love that.
And
see,
you
that's
learn a lot.
Important.
Yeah.
That's important, especially when you're dating, because I think that's the biggest place we're failing in dating. those questions and those conversations really allow you to understand the person's values.
Yep.
And how they think and make decisions.
Yes.
When you looking to apply for a job, they got a whole host of scenario questions so they can see how
Your
quick,
thinking.
right, how you think and how quickly you can get to that solution. So I think if more people ask scenario-based questions, they could potentially learn a lot more about their partner.
And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of podcasts, though, because I mean, even if you're not hosting the podcast, just watching a podcast
Yep.
with your partner, just watching it yourself and then taking that conversation back home. Even though word on the curb is, Black people need to let go of the podcast equipment. Like, we need to just
Right.
take it out of the hoods. We need to get rid of
Right.
it. I do think that it's creating the conversation, right? R.I.P. Kevin Samuels. People had whatever your opinion was, he created conversations.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He brought up these topics that need to be talked about. Whether or not you appreciated the way he presented them, a lot of the conversations that he brought to the forefront needed to be had. They were things that we just were sweeping under the rug and pretending like, what we've been doing have been working, and it obviously has not been.
He
That's
is
a fact.
truly the Godfather. Shout out to Kevin Samuel, because this is the thing. Kevin
May
really
he
brought
rest
the
in peace.
conversation to the
He did.
table.
He did. Like it or
And
not. Like it or not.
like it or not, and the thing about it is we still not having enough conversations, because I can attest to this personally. I didn't even and start investigating or look to understanding the dynamic between men and women or relationships as a whole until I was about 29, 30 years old. So you got to think about that. I'm well into my career. You know what I'm saying? Finance, okay, I understand that we don't need to be broke because that's how I grew up, right? But that's it. I mean, it's more to life than that, right? It's more to being a man or a woman than that. So he brought conversations that I think, of course, some of it was abrasive, and it's going to be rough because a lot of us grew up without the right instruction, without a soft voice, without a rock or foundation to lean on. But I still am very much so appreciative of the people who are willing to put out very vulnerable content, because at the end of the day, we have to learn, because it is a problem. And it's agencies out there that are seeking to destroy families in general, Western culture families in general, especially Black families. And this is a thing. I tell women this all the time. You're not the only one that know you special. Your man or guys interested in you, not the only one that know you special. These corporations know you special too. And they want to get these women away from their families. They want to get these women out of the household. They want these women to be on the opposite side of the gender war, because that's more money for them. That's more spending for them. So all of this talent, like I think Tyshawn mentioned this in a podcast, I think Black female entrepreneurs are the fastest growing entrepreneurs. That's great. But let's think about what else could that mean?
What are they running from? What are they leaving behind when they're fastly growing these businesses?
Exactly. And it's not say that you can't do both, but you got to think about what comes first.
Would it be growing at that rapid speed if your family was taking priority, or if building in your personal life was taking priority?
Right.
Or are we hyper? One thing Kevin Samuels used to say that I thought was like, ooh, that gut punching with that one. But he would say, like, when Black women get bored, they go get another degree. When Black women can't get a man, they go get another degree. It's like that is our default. It's what can we control? I can go get a degree. I can climb the corporate ladder. I can invest in everything outside of a personal relationship, really figuring out what is at the root of why my relationships don't work.
Because it's difficult. And that means you got to look in the mirror and work on yourself.
Yep.
And you got to be vulnerable. And the thing is, women love community. They love to be incentivized. They love structure, right? They love to overachieve. And they doing it all for somebody that's not willing to die for them. Somebody that's willing to fire them whenever the company is losing money. And these organizations know that. So we have to really do the hard thing, which is improve ourselves. Like you said, get down to the root of why we are running away from relationships. And not that women shouldn't pursue education or higher purpose and those types of things, but we have to make sure that that's actually what you want to do and not using that as some level of escapism.
For sure we are. I mean, I did. It's like when you know you want this thing so bad, for a lot of women, that's marriage. You can't marry yourself, right? You can't force a man to marry. Well, it's not going to work out. You could do all those things, but it's probably not going to work out. So knowing that you can't control that, I'm going to just focus and invest my time and energy on what I can control. which is I'm gonna make this money, I'm gonna get these degrees, I'm gonna get, you know, all of these plaques up on the wall, but then I'm lonely at night. I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, but I'm pouring all of this energy and effort into trying to fill the void. That only truly fulfilling the void with what you really desire, you know.
We had Dr. Jamal Bryant on the show and he dropped the bar. He said, you talking about, he was talking to women. He said, you talking about you was tempted. No, you was bored.
Facts.
And I thought that was very descriptive of what's happening.
And it says, I think in the book Way of a Superior Man, he talks about this a bit. He says the masculine is mission and the feminine is love and release. And when, women are in that space where they don't necessarily feel like they're operating, at their fullest capacity, they go ahead and hop in their masculine bag and they pursue a mission. And it just becomes difficult because me personally, I can date a woman with a job. I can date a woman that, is obviously taking care of herself, but I can't really seriously date a woman that's trying to climb the heights of the corporate ladder, because at this point we become brothers in arms. We're not, there's
no polarity.
There's not, that sexual tension and fire is gone at that point. But
because she's dedicated and devoted to her job.
Well, it's the energy that it takes. I've tried it. I'm telling you, I have tried it, and it's very difficult because even just in the casual after, because think about when you come home after you've been fighting all day. Your t-shirt is bloody. You done fought the world, slayed dragons, both of y'all. And if your mind, both of you guys, are not really good at turning off the masculine, like you still kind of in pursuit mode, then what ends up happening is you end up chilling with your homie.
The man is comfortable with operating his masculine. It's natural for a man to go be on a mission and work 24/7. For a woman, it's not natural. And you got to consider what's happening in these environments. A lot of these environments are male dominated. A lot of these environments coach and train women to suppress their emotions. A lot of these environments require women to perform 10 times better than men to get the same level of respect. I mean, this is the thing. I work corporate. I know how tough it was. And I know the women who excelled in corporate usually
tough as nails.
Tough as nails.
They had something to prove.
They got something to prove. They usually weren't women that I'm attracted to. Now, they were absolutely women I loved to work with. I loved them because they did 1,001 things and made sure everything was on point.
Yeah.
Right? But you got to think about what that does to you over time. And over time, not only does it suck away some of a woman's best years, right, in terms of fertility, right, in terms of just, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not even going there. I gotta be careful with my words. I'm not even gonna go there. But basically, it does a number on women.
And I'm gonna be honest. When you really look at it, the best women are the ones that truly neglect family.
I'm sorry?
Neglect family.
You mean the best women that perform in corporate?
Yes.
Okay, you missed that word. Say that again.
The best women that perform in corporate are the ones who do not prioritize family. They're putting kids on the back burner. They don't even really want to have kids because they don't even want to stop working. Like they either had them early and they working hard and the nanny got them, or they just not even like, no. Right now is not a good time. It's a conversation
in the Black community, the husband has been replaced with the pastor or the boss. That is who the Black woman has. That's who she's answering to. That's who she's submitting to. We've replaced the husband with those roles. Would you agree?
And here's the thing. I'm gonna be honest, and I can't double back and say that us don't have a hand in that as well. If I'm just being very honest, because I mean, first of all, I grew up in a house where I did not grow up with my biological father. Ironically, all of my closest homies I grew up with, and I grew up with some really sharp homies. Like we all graduated top 10%, athletes. Like my core homie group from middle school to high school was sharp, and all of us, ironically, had a very similar home situation. either did not have our biological father or no father present in the house, and we figuring it out. We getting raised by football coaches. We getting raised by assistant principals. I mean, or getting our masculine energy from those areas, and we just having to really figure it out. So it is when we looking at a lot of the problems in the feminine. I will say, I truly believe the men are going to be the only people that can fix or be able to resolve this issue. Women are not going to be able to fix this problem. And that's just the reality of the situation. I don't think everybody can be helped. It's going to be casualties of war. But at the end of the day, it's going to take the best men and the women who are willing to cooperate and understand and self-reflect and be better women. That's going to allow us to get through this place we in, this state we in relationships. Because as social media continues to double down on pouring poison in our minds, I can literally find myself scrolling and even be finding myself be like, these crazy ass women. Just with the things I see. And I'm even now having to more intentionally unfollow certain things that I'm seeing messages. But that's what men are now being inundated with, these visions of delusional women.
Yep.
And men are and women are seeing men talking about how bad they don't want to be with one of these women or how they'll never get married, which further just, and then we bring in all of this and then we trying to date with all of this deeply in our subconscious.
And then we're still having kids because we might be slowing down, the rate of marriage might be, all of this other stuff might be slowing down, but we're still sleeping together. We still have unprotected sex. We're still having children out of wedlock. So we're continuing the cycle.
Very dangerous
We're
cycle.
literally continuing the cycle. But nobody, I haven't seen it, nobody's addressing the fact that we're still just having these babies. Nobody is talking about that. Right? Because if you talk about it, then you're shaming single mothers. If you talk about it, then it's the whole cancel culture thing is like you can't speak to a solution because then if you're talking about a solution, then you got to be shitting on somebody who has the problem.
Yes.
It's like you can't even present the solution without somebody having a problem with it.
It's meant to be like that.
Oh,
The divisiveness.
by design, yep.
Exactly. Divisiveness that's what draws the most attention. So they don't want us to have those positive conversations or conversations about change because that's not what brings these social media platforms advertising dollars. So what Tyshawn is referring to, seeing those women that little nutty and out of control, or seeing those men be very disrespectful and brash towards those women, that's good for these media platforms.
Speaking of media platforms, what's your opinion on red pill community?
Man.
I think to me and Tasha, I think we agree on a lot of things, but I think we might disagree on this one.
I'm interested. Good. Let's see.
So I think I do think there is a place for red pill community.
Explain what the red pill community is first.
So the red pill community, I'm not a spokesperson for them.
They're woman haters. That's how I describe them.
Yeah, it's a community that I would say solely holds women accountable when it comes to the relationship dynamic. I would say
everything's the woman's fault, basically.
Yes.
that's what I would agree with that. That's
the
pretty much.
philosophy.
So because and you got to understand the avatar of the man who goes to the red pill community, because so many of these men don't have masculine presences in their households. They're lost and going into this world. And imagine a man whose every experience with a woman has been negative, right? Because he does not have game. He does not know how to take care of himself. He's not personally developing. He does not have good discipline. He doesn't know how to communicate well. So with women, he probably gets rejected over again. Maybe in school, he was getting teased. He was getting called ugly.
That is exactly
so women have become a major issue for this man, and he doesn't know how to fix it. So he goes to this community of men who, here's where the red pill gets it right. They are teaching men to get better. They're teaching men to go to the gym. They're teaching you to be disciplined. They teach you to get money. They teach you to do those things to build up your value. But where they get it absolutely wrong is when it comes to family. They do not teach family. They do not teach the benefit of having a woman in a man's life and how he becomes better with a great woman. They tell you all of the issues that women can bring. Here's how to have sex with women very quickly. Here's the things you need to watch out for so they don't take your money. I mean, I even seen as far as the red pill community, the one of the higher level originators of the red pill community telling men to even get vasectomies so they can have so they can pretty much forego sexual discipline and still be able to, you know, pretty much make it a man's playground, if you will. But at the end of the day, the only reason that community exists is because it's been such a lack of masculine leadership. Masculinity has even been getting punished over the last few decades, with it being something that is toxic and should be relaxed and should be much softer. And we push the softer men. And when you don't have, like, first of all, if the uncles, y'all remember like the uncles at the cookouts that was talking, like low key, a lot of those guys would be considered red pill if you just hear some of the things that they say, like, oh, talk to an old black man. Like
yeah, but he was probably married.
But see, that's the thing. I'm talking, and again, the red pill community, when when they talk about relationships, their whole relationship dynamic and talking points is massively toxic. It's massively toxic.
All these things did not work out, and now let me tell y'all how it didn't work out.
Now, this is the thing. I do 100% agree with Tyshawn on that, but I do still think it's a space for it, because although I don't agree with the angle, I do think that sometimes you got to get punched in the face to get your ass up. I really do think that.
But what is the getting your ass up? Because I just feel like it's not a solution-oriented philosophy. It's you being a better man, but then what? You being a better man for what purpose?
See, no, I do agree with that, but it's just the thing. When I think about, you had, during the civil rights movement, you had two varying messages that you can say both were righteous. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Martin Luther King's message did not, some people, it just did not hit, right? But Malcolm X's message, it hit. Now, right or wrong, now at the end, did Malcolm X come around and he took a more holistic approach to race matters in the United States or in the world? Yes. So all I'm saying is, if you get punched in the face and you catch that red pill, take it for what it is. Don't become a devout follower of it. Just get this level of understanding that you need to make a change. Get that little level of motivation and find your way to a GS Youngblood or a David Dita that's going to teach you not only the dynamics between holding women accountable, but also holding yourself accountable. Because like Tyshawn said, women, we can't wait for them to change. It's us that must make a change.
Yeah. See, that's the thing about it, because, I mean, if you go back to MLK and Malcolm X, they were both righteous, though. I mean, if you roll with either one of those guys, you were gonna, the society would have been better. Red pill is, I mean,
where y'all driving us to? Where are y'all driving us to?
See, that's the issue with the red pill, because if I can't tell you to go to any community that won't make the nation better overall, like that's the most dangerous part there, because if you get stuck there, then your growth stunts. The problem is you need to get punched in the face by your pastor.
This is the thing. One message was divisive, and the other message was more collaborative. It was very different. Violence was a big part of what Malcolm X was putting out. So you can't really say, don't get me wrong, I think both had levels of righteousness. But what I'm saying is, one particular message was piercing. The message that we are delivering, this whole man message, is a lot more difficult to get out than the other message. So I don't agree with the red pill community, but I do think it's some space for it.
Got you.
Unfortunately, if we continue to have a society where we continue to create, I think we're producing just emasculated men, we're going to create the monster of the red pill community. The red pill community is just the reaction of, we spawned it from us not properly grooming the young men. Like, it's interesting, I was actually listening to the story of the Joker. When they tell you the story of the Joker, how the Joker, the maniac, one of the most insane villains of all time, when you watch the movie on him, which I watched this weekend, It's like a whole psychology series. Like he was this super pacified kid who had to suppress all of his emotion, who was not able to really embrace his masculine, who had to be this person that he was not. And over time, it spawned him into this evil character, one of the most evil characters of all time, through suppression and repression. And that's what a lot of men are experiencing, being raised by women, not being able to express or truly like direct their masculine energy the right ways, and being confused and lost in this world. What happens is you create a red pill community. You abuse the hell out of women, you dominate women, you create feminism. These different aspects and facets that we hate, really, we all cause them. And if what you got to look at now is how to put the right information and the right resources out there to make sure that you just don't continue to repeat the cycle that we was talking about prior.
So for the ladies who are tuned in and they are single as shit and they don't want to repeat the cycle, they don't want another cycle. They want the next cycle to be the last cycle. What's some advice that you can share? What can they do more of? What should they be doing less of? How can they set themselves up for success in relationships? One piece of advice.
I think it's internal. I think women, just like men, should work on what's inside. Ladies, listen, if you want to find you a good man and you want to attract a man for a long-term relationship, you do have to take care of yourself. You got to find you some hobbies. You got to find you some interests. Men, I can say this for Tyshawn and all the brothers, we can appreciate some domestic skills, right? Rather than you hitting that DoorDash 4 times a week. That's also important. And you just can't really forget about what you consume. This is the thing. You got some of these social media platforms, I won't name them. Some of them, they actually make up money off being in between righteous and ratchet. And that's what you're commenting on. That's what you're consuming. That is restructuring the way you think and the way you consider things. So everything starts with a thought. As a man thinketh, so is he. As a woman thinketh, so is she. So if you're not aware and you're not cognizant of what you're consuming on a daily basis, the activities that you're doing on a daily and weekly basis, you can find yourself in trouble. So if you focus on those things and tighten up on those things, you are going to attract and put yourself in position. Which is probably a whole nother episode. You are going to attract the man that you truly desire and be open to the man that you truly desire. Because a lot of the barriers that women have are solely from things that they don't understand and things that they have not yet come to know. It baffles me sometimes when I see women good women dating particular men. I'm like, man, you didn't see that coming. I'm shocked you didn't see that coming. But it's because they have not even opened their minds to be able to have the situational and relationship awareness to decipher or scrub before they actually lay down with them.
So what I get for the ladies, because I think the Achilles heel of all women is that aspect and key of accountability. All right? So ladies, everybody else ain't the problem, okay? We have to there's always something that we can work on. And if you ain't all the way right. So one thing I see ladies neglect massively, and I think it's probably even more important for women than men. And even men don't need to neglect this, but more important for women, your self-care, like the way you take time for yourself, being in tune with yourself, you being because your intuition, your knowing, that's like your superpower as a woman. So when you neglect yourself for an extended period of time, you no longer are tapped in. That information, you understanding what you need to work on with yourself, you being able to, that accountability piece, it's not that you don't know what's going on. So I just really recommend every woman intentionally take some time out for yourself. If it's once a day, once a week, however you can do it. I've had this conversation with so many young ladies, and the first thing they say is, I can't because of work, I can't do that. No, I got kids and I don't got time to meditate. I don't got time for no yoga. I don't got time for hobbies. I got to do this and that. Well, listen, you too busy to be healed. Okay? I'm sorry. That's the bad news. You too busy to be happy. You too busy to take care of yourself. You too busy to get money. You too busy to be happy. So you won't be. You're going to be in that wherever you at, you too busy to get to the next level. So just very intentionally make sure you pouring into yourself and you setting time away from yourself and make that a hard boundary regardless of whoever got to take a loss, because you got to make sure you pour into yourself first.
Facts.
For the ladies who are not subscribed, where can they find the show? How can they tap in?
Hardly initiated. Let me tell you, hardly, and initiated is like one of the hardest words to spell on the internet, guys.
Right.
So
We'll make sure we link
hardly
it.
initiated, but we had to do it because of what we just talked about. Me and Ryan, literally in the middle of building our business, we got to a place where the business was safe, it was stable, it was producing income, and me and Ryan was getting out these relationships that wasn't working for ourselves, and we started digging into masculinity books.
I personally was
relationship books.
unhappy.
And we both were. And we had this interest that was burning in us. And I'm like, yo, Ryan, you need to read this. And Ryan telling me I need to read this book. And it was just so crazy, the information that was coming to us, because what we just, overall theme of what we got, especially when understanding manhood and masculinity, the strongest men, the strongest communities, they all came from through these rites of passage, through wise and strong men, putting these men on game, initiating them through processes where we found that us and many men now were hardly initiated. And that's what inspired the show. And actually, through consistently putting the content out, we also found that women were also having the same issue.
You ain't initiated either.
In the same boat.
In the same
We both messed up.
boat. So now we making sure we feeding and putting out content for the men as well as the ladies. So definitely go to YouTube, hardly initiated, subscribe to it, because we feeding the people regularly. And of course, you made your appearance as well.
Y'all gotta watch that episode. That was a dope one.
Yes.
Thank y'all for coming. I think this was very helpful. I think the ladies are definitely going to take a lot from this conversation. Y'all don't feel attacked, right? We can have a conversation where we didn't necessarily agree 1,000% on everything, but just sharing your perspective in a respectful way. I think that is the whole point of having these platforms. So thank y'all for coming.
We appreciate you.
Y'all already know I truly, truly believe that there is a partner out there being prepared to love you properly. You just got to put yourself in position. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, share this episode with a friend, and I'll catch you next week. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming content. And take it a step further and go ahead and join our private community over on Patreon, because it comes with some pretty bomb perks, including early and discounted access to our upcoming events, behind-the-scene exclusives with some of your favorite guests, the opportunity to call in on an upcoming show, the chance to vote on topics and guests for brand new shows, and I'm even giving you unlimited access to my vault of business classes where I'm teaching you everything from Airbnb to developing digital products and everything in between. And you can get access to our Patreon for as little as $5 a month, okay? Get in where you fit in, and I'll see you on the